यूट्यूब कहाँ गया, लाइव स्ट्रीम। लो जी, all set. Thank you very much. I, Ashwini Jindal, welcome you all on this 3 days certification course on litigation. Rather, not only litigation, it is notice, appeals, and litigation. All things are covered at different level. May it be assessment at the level of 143 or 147, and Priksha ji has also covered many other things, may it be related to 144 or search related notices. Then yesterday we have the deliberation by CA Sanjay Agarwal ji on appeal before Commissioner appeals. Today we have our learned speakers and very close to us, Dr. CA Rakesh Gupta ji and CA एडवोकेट सोमिल अग्रवाल जी। डॉक्टर साहब को तो मैंने सीए डॉक्टर ही अकेला बोला, बाकी तो 5-6 डिग्रियां मैं उनकी बीच में खा गया, क्योंकि वो जब बायोडाटा, जब उनका रिज्यूमे प्रोफाइल जब पढ़ेगी नेहा, तब वो डिटेल में बताएगी कि इतनी डिग्रियां हैं, तो मेरे ख्याल में ना पूरी बुक का पहले फर्स्ट पेज तो उनसे भर जाता है डॉक्टर साहब का। तो आई वेलकम यू ऑल। डॉक्टर साहब इज प्रैक्टिसिंग नॉट ओनली इन ITAT। ITAT तो अब इनका फर्स्ट स्टेप रह गया, ही इज प्रैक्टिसिंग इन हाई कोर्ट एज वेल एज सुप्रीम ऑनरेबल सुप्रीम कोर्ट। आज तक आपने डॉक्टर साहब को हमेशा सुना होगा लेटेस्ट जुडिशियल प्रोनाउंसमेंट के ऊपर, लेकिन आज हमने डॉक्टर साहब को रिक्वेस्ट की है कि मेंबर्स को जो ITAT का प्रोसीजर, हाउ टू प्रोसीड विद, अगर आपका अपील, कौन सी अपील में जाना चाहिए, कौन में नहीं जाना चाहिए, कैसे क्रॉस, जहां आपने डिपार्टमेंट की अपील है तो आपने आगे कैसे उसका आगे अपनी क्रॉस डालना है, जहां उसमें प्रोसीडिंग्स में किन किन चीजों का ध्यान रखना चाहिए, व्हाट आर दी की पॉइंट्स, की इनसाइट्स फॉर द ITAT ट्राइब्यूनल पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू, और रिसेंट जजमेंट्स के ऊपर भी आपको आज डॉक्टर साहब बताएंगे, लिटिगेशन के रिलेटेड जितनी भी हैं इनकम टैक्स में। तो वी ऑल नो कि अभी इनकम टैक्स के आने वाले टाइम में सेक्शन भी बदलने वाले हैं, अगले साल से वो सेक्शन बदलेंगे, लेकिन कंटेंट ऑलमोस्ट सेम ही रहेगा। रादर उस कंटेंट के कारण ये हो सकता है कि दिक्कतें और बढ़ जाएं इंटरप्रिटेशन की, तो ये लिटिगेशन कम होने वाली नहीं है, बढ़ने वाली ही है इन फ्यूचर आफ्टर द इम्प्लीमेंटेशन ऑफ न्यू बिल ऑन द इनकम टैक्स लॉ। तो वी लर्नर ऑलवेज एंड लर्न फ्रॉम डॉक्टर साहब हाउ टू अपीयर बिफोर ITAT, क्योंकि आज की डेट में, पहले तो आ रहा था कि ITAT विल ऑल्सो भी फेसलेस, कल और परसों का जो दिन था दैट वाज टोटली फेसलेस, but in ITAT it is a mixture, I think. In many cases they allow online hearing, although it is not faceless, it is online. Nowadays many proceedings are online, so that every members can attend the proceeding as well as appear before the ITAT and have the opportunity to practice in the ITAT. This course was specifically designed by analyzing all these things. तो मैं ज्यादा टाइम ना लेते हुए मैं डॉक्टर साहब का, सोमिल जी का और अमरजीत कंबोज जी जो हमें पैनलिस्ट में नजर आ रहे हैं, योगेश बांका जी, देन रमन सेठ जी, और 246 पार्टिसिपेंट अभी हो गए हैं। तो मैं सबका चार्टर्ड अकाउंटेंट एसोसिएशन की तरफ से और वॉइस ऑफ CA की तरफ से स्वागत करता हूं आज हमारे Day 3 में जो ITAT के ऊपर है। देन फर्दर कोर्सेज में एट द एंड आपको आई विल अनाउंस कि आगे हम क्या नया लेके आ रहे हैं, क्या सर्टिफिकेट कोर्स और क्या प्रोग्राम, चाहे वो टैक्स ऑडिट के ऊपर हो, जहां फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट जो आई है नॉन कॉर्पोरेट असेसिस के लिए, उसके ऊपर पहले प्रोग्राम हम कर चुके हैं, नेक्स्ट प्रोग्राम भी हम बड़ी जल्दी लेके आ रहे हैं, और भी बहुत प्रोग्राम हम आने वाले टाइम में लेके आ रहे हैं। GST ट्रिब्यूनल के ऊपर भी स्पेसिफिक प्रोग्राम लेके आ रहे हैं, तो दैट आई विल अनाउंस इन डिटेल। तो आई विल रिक्वेस्ट नेहा जी टू इंट्रोड्यूस our today's guest faculties, CA Somil Agarwal ji and Dr. Rakesh Gupta ji.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. And I would like to offer a very warm welcome again to Dr. Rakesh Gupta and CA Somil Agarwal. Thank you both of you कि आप हमेशा graciously हमारा invitation accept करते हैं जब भी हम आपको request करते हैं कि आपने हमारे members के लिए time निकालना है. Thank you so much. And I welcome all the panelists as well as all the participants जो आज हमें join कर रहे हैं on a Saturday evening. I know Saturday evenings are to relax, but thank you all कि आज आप हमारे साथ कुछ value add करने के लिए आए हैं अपने weekend में. I would quickly introduce Somil and Rakesh sir. So, CA Somil Agarwal is a lawyer by profession and qualified CA. He actively handles direct tax litigation and advisory. He has also done CS, CMA, DISA, LLB, LLM UK. He regularly appears before various benches of ITAT, High Court, and Supreme Court, and several cases argued by him have been reported in leading tax journals. He has spoken in various chambers and study circles on tax related topics. His articles on corporate tax issues have been published on ITAT Online and journals of various professional entities. I welcome you, Somil. I think I would take that opportunity to introduce Rakesh sir right before his deliberation. Will that be okay?
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Welcome you, Somil. Over to you.
Thank you, Nehaji, for the kind words. My guru Rakesh sir, Ashwin Jindal sir, Kambodh sir, Raka sir, Raman sir, my seniors in the profession, and my very dear friends. As Ashwini sir said in this brief introductory remark, that the conference, the certification about income tax litigation, 3 days dedicated to litigation. And the chapter that we touch upon today is regarding the appeal before the Honorable Income Tax Appellate Tribunal. Income Tax Appellate Appeal to the Tribunal, Chapter 20B of the Income Tax Act deals with the appeals. And Part B of this chapter deals with appeal before the Appellate Tribunals, Income Tax Appellate Tribunal. Now, the first and foremost aspect that we need to understand is that which orders against which appeals can be filed to the tribunal and which are the non-appealable orders. Now, Section 253 of the Income Tax Act provides the orders. It lists down the orders against which appeals can be filed to the Honorable Tribunal. Now, there are certain orders against which the tribunal acts as the first appellate authority, and certain orders where tribunal is the second appellate authority. We understand you had a session yesterday regarding the Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals, which is denoted as first appellate authority. So, assessment is done, assessment order is passed, first appeal before the CIT appeal, and then the second appellate authority, that is the Income Tax Appellate Tribunal, which is generally noted as the final fact-finding body. Because subsequent to this tribunal, the appeal goes to Honorable High Court, where the appeal is admitted only on substantial question of law. So, Income Tax Appellate Tribunal, the final fact-finding body, appeal to be filed to the tribunal. Now, where an assessee is aggrieved by the order of Commissioner Appeals, or as recently introduced, Joint Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals, then the appeal is to be filed to the tribunal. What kind of orders? Orders can be against assessment, assessments being search assessments, reassessments, normal assessments. Then rectification proceedings, where an order of under 154 was passed. Subsequently, CIT appeal passes the order. Assessee is not satisfied, they can knock at the door of the tribunal. Penalty matters, penalty proceedings, again the same route. If the assessee is coming through the CIT appeal order route, then if he is not satisfied with the order of the CIT appeal can be filed to the tribunal. Same situation as a Joint Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals, because Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals, Joint Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals, depending upon the amount, quantification involved, the appeals are distributed among them, but the appeal which are dealt by them are more or less similar, and appeals against their order is filed before the honorable tribunal. Now, sir, you would recall in penalty matters 270 capital A or the earlier regime of 270(11)(c), you would recall the authority levying the penalty includes Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals also. And where the Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals exercises his power of announcement under Section 251 and makes announcement to the assessment, then qua such announced amount, it is the CIT appeal who is required under the law to levy penalty, if any. The assessing officer cannot levy penalty in respect of such announcement made by the CIT appeals. So in such situations where also the penalty has been levied by the Commissioner of Appeals or the Joint Commissioner of Appeals, as the case may be, in such cases also, the appeal is liable to be filed before the honorable tribunal. So these are the appellate orders coming from the CIT appeal route or Joint Commissioner of Income Tax appeal route that the appeals are filed generally as second appellate authority to the tribunal. Now we all are aware of orders under Section 263, where the Commissioner exercises power holding that the assessment order so passed is erroneous and prejudicial to the interest of the revenue. Then the CIT or the PCIT can revise the order, set aside the assessment order, or he can very well make the addition in his order and ask the EO to give effect to such order. Now, two kinds of CIT orders generally are passed. One, where CIT crystallizes the addition to be made in his order itself. And second, where the CIT says that the assessment order is erroneous and prejudicial to the interest of revenue. And under 263, I invoke my power and I set aside the assessment to de novo. Now the question arises, what is the remedy recourse available to the assessee subsequent to this? And Ashwini sir, I will devote some time over here because we have seen number of cases wherein 263 matters. An error of judgment is made, with utmost respect, I'll say that. And then a situation arises of continuation of delay, and I'll explain how. Now in 263 order, the CIT has made some observations and he has set aside the order. That is one situation. Another where he has made the addition in the order and AO only has to give effect to this order. Now, generally what we have seen is assessees, what they do is, like if he says set aside the order, then subsequent proceedings before the assessing officer are joined and submissions are made with the expectation that if anything goes wrong, we'll file appeal after the assessment order so passed in pursuance of 263 order. But the remedy which is missed out is the remedy of filing appeal against the 263 order. And I tell you, sir, number of times we have seen assessees come to us after the assessment order passed in pursuance to 263. And while reading the 263 order, it comes to us, in our view, it feels that yes, assessee should have filed appeal against the 263 order because the jurisdiction assumed by the CIT was itself bad. But since the time limit goes by, then the issue arises of continuation of delay, which we'll deal separately when I come to that. But this aspect, I want to emphasize that whenever we receive any 263 order, we must contemplate, and I would say invariably in most of the cases, appeal should be filed against the 263 order before the honorable tribunal. Then, sir, charitable organizations filing applications for registration under 12A, new regime 12AB, 80G. So if that is rejected or subsequently the registration is cancelled, the power which is there with the commissioner, then against such orders, appeal is to be filed before the honorable tribunal. Sir, you would have noted I had used the word appeal route. assessee coming through appeal route. My learned friends over here are aware about section 144 capital C. The dispute resolution panel, DRP, where in certain cases, in case of non-residents or residents having transfer pricing transactions, there the assessing officer initially passes a draft assessment order. And then assessee can either file his objections before the DRP and then take the DRP route, or the assessee can convey to the officer, look, you can finalize, you can pass the final order. I'm not opting for DRP. And then after the final order, the assessee can go to the CIT appeals. So these are two routes which are available in certain situations. So when the assessee opts the dispute resolution panel route, that is the DRP route, in that case, once the objections are filed to the DRP, then assessing officer will pass the final order after receiving the directions of the DRP. Now the DRP is constituted by 3 officers of the commissioner PCIT levels. So once their direction comes, and according to which assessing officer is bound to pass the order, if against such final order which is passed in pursuant to directions of DRP, then such final assessment order is challenged directly before the honorable tribunal. So these are the assessment orders against which direct appeal is filed before the tribunal. Some of my seniors in the profession would recall the earlier regime of block assessments of search, where tribunal used to be the first appellate authority. So in the similar manner, against this final assessment order, appeal is filed before the tribunal. Then, as I mentioned regarding charitable organizations, 12A ATG, similarly 1023C, where registration is taken under subclause 4, 5, 6 or 6A, any rejection or cancellation, the appeal will lie before the tribunal against the order of commissioner rejecting or cancelling the registration. So, sir, these are more or less the appealable orders as provided under section 253 of the Act. Now, the question arises, which are those orders which are non-appealable? One order that comes to my mind is section 264. Now, 264, same concept, commissioner invokes his power, but this time where an order has been passed which is prejudicial to the interest of the assessee, then on an application by the assessee or suo motu, the commissioner can pass an order under section 264. Now, if the 264 order is adverse, there is no appeal available, appeal remedy available. Then the only recourse would be filing writ before the Honorable High Court. Interestingly, sir, I am reminded of a matter, and quite recently. Now, in this matter, assessee was aggrieved that the assessing officer had passed assessment without giving adequate opportunity of hearing, and that circumstances, those situations, that the opportunity was so inadequate and that was so writ large in the matter. I'll give you quickly the short facts. 14 December, the assessee receives a notice, show cause notice, for 7 years collectively, that 32 crores is the amount which I'm giving a show cause, why this addition should not be made. Assessee writes him, sir, let me be made aware that 32 crores, what is the data year-wise, what is the breakup, what is the detail of this amount, and so that I may be able to respond. Expecting that the assessing officer may give the breakup, assessee receives on 19 December 7 notices year-wise, and this time the amount collectively in those 7 years goes to 600 crores. अब साहब 32 करोड़ से उभर के नहीं निकला था वो, 2-3 दिन बाद 7 साल के नोटिस आए 600 करोड़ की शो कॉज नोटिस। 19 तारीख का इशू किया, 21 तारीख को एसएससी को रिसीव होता है और 22 तारीख की डेट है सर। असेसी फिर विनम्रता से कहता है कि साहब मुझे ब्रेकअप बताओ, पहले 32 था अब 600 हो गया, डिटेल बताओ क्या है, मैं तभी तो कुछ जवाब दे पाऊंगा। बट हिज मिजरी वर नॉट अबाउट नॉट स्टॉपिंग हियर। जब 26 तारीख को असेसमेंट ऑर्डर आता है जिसमें टोटल 7 साल में एडिशन होती है 740 करोड़। सो द असेसी फाइल एन एप्लीकेशन अंडर 264 टू द कमिश्नर कि साहब देखो ये हुआ है मेरे साथ, और ये सर्च असेसमेंट था, मेरा असेसमेंट पंचनामा के हिसाब से अगले साल टाइम बारिंग है, देयर वाज नो अर्जेंसी, लेट दी गिव मी डिटेल एंड गिव मी प्रॉपर अपॉर्चुनिटी, आई फर्निश दी सबमिशंस। बट साहब कमिश्नर साहब को नहीं पसंद आया, उन्होंने वो रिट एप्लीकेशन रिजेक्ट कर दी। assessee approached the high court, matter went on for years, for some reason or the other the matter could not proceed, or ultimately sir, honorable high court, seeing the facts of the case were initially quite and quite prima facie, high court felt that yes, there is a miss of opportunity. But then the high court came up, and high court, the honorable bench advised or suggested, I would say, that would it not be better if we give the assessee an opportunity to file appeal against this order of assessment, and we'll condone the delay and let him take that route. Again, he'll go back to 264. Then again, an assessment order will be passed. Much water has flown. Let this assessment order be challenged before the Commission of Appeals, and let them take it therefrom. So 2 points I want to emphasize from here, sir. One, against 264 order, there is no appeal. And second, when we approach the High Court in the writ, there are remedies which can be asked, which can be requested, which are not generally available. But the Honorable High Court, like the example I said, gave us the appeal route and condoned the delay. I recollect, similarly, a matter was there in which 14-day disallowance was there, and Honorable High Court allowed us to go into appeal against the assessment order and gave us the condonation of delay, and our writ was again against 264, which was dismissed as satisfied. So, sir, another non-appealable order that comes to my mind is where assessee files a request for stay before the assessing officer, and then to his senior officers, additional, and then the commissioner. And against that rejection, this query comes to us number of times. तब ये CIT ने reject कर दिया हमारा stay, tribunal जा सकते हैं? No, sir. The order of rejection of stay by the commissioner is not appealable before the tribunal. But yes, when you file the appeal before the tribunal, stay application can be filed to the tribunal, on which again we'll come to it a bit later, how the powers of stay are exercised by the honorable tribunal and under what circumstances, what balance of convenience tribunal examines to grant stay, and what stipulations tribunal can put in while granting the stay. So, sir, these are the appealable, non-appealable orders which I wanted to share. Coming to the second issue, quickly, the limitation. The limitation to file appeal before the tribunal. Now, I must say, the limitation provided under the Act was, and I'm emphasizing was, 60 days from the receipt of the order of the CIT appeals. But by Finance Act 24, with effect from 1st October 24, there has been a slight change in the limitation. Now the limitation is 2 months from the end of the month in which the order of the CIT appeals is passed and received by the commissioner or the assessee, whoever the appellant is. So from the receipt of the order, 2 months from the end of the month, the appeal can be filed before the tribunal. So that is a slight change only in respect of the appeals being filed to the tribunal. As far as the cross objection to be filed, there is no change in the limitation, which is 30 days from the receipt of the appeal filed by the other party. So an assessee, or wherein where the assessing officer has filed appeal to the tribunal, the department has gone in the appeal, an assessee has not filed appeal, Then subsequently, if any issues have to be taken, assessee can file a cross objection before the tribunal, and that has to be filed within 30 days of the receipt of the notice of appeal filed by the department. तो सर मान लीजिए डिपार्टमेंट ने अपील फाइल करी एंड से January 25, and the notice of that appeal is received by the assessee in March 25, then within that receipt, say on 15th March it was received, within 30 days, the cross objection has to be filed before the tribunal. Now the appeal memo, that is the form that you must have discussed yesterday. Before CIT appeal, the form is form 35. Before tribunal, it is form 36. Broadly, the form is similar, contact details, grounds, and everything. Statement of facts. Generally, before the tribunal, the statement of facts filed before the CIT appeal are attached in the appeal memo. Apart from that, along with the form, the impugned orders, that is the order of the assessing officer, the order of the commissioner appeals, the form 35 and the grounds filed before the commissioner, and the grounds of appeal before the tribunal, and the form 36, they have to be now uploaded on the online portal of the Income Tax Appellate Tribunal. Of late, latest development, the tribunal is now taking appeals online, which have to be uploaded. Earlier, the forms and the orders were filed in triplicate, but now it is done online. Similarly, for cross objections, form 36A, which has to be filed, and along with that, the impugned orders have to be filed. In case of penalty, the penalty order, the assessment order, the form 35 and the grounds of appeal before commissioner appeals in penalty, the commissioner appeals order, and the form 36 and the appeal grounds before the tribunal. These are the documents which are attached and filed before the tribunal, which are uploaded for filing the appeal before the tribunal. Sir, while filing the appeal, as a prescribed fees is to be paid. Now, where the assessed income is up to 1 lakh rupees, the fees is 500. Where the assessed income is between 1 lakh and 2 lakh, it is 1500. And where the assessed income is more than 2 lakh rupees, it is 1% of the assessed income subject to a maximum of 10,000. And where it is not falling, it is like rectification or it is a case of penalty, then the appeal fee would be 500 rupees. These are the appeal fees prescribed under section 253 of the Act. Now, sir, the grounds of appeal. The grounds of appeal to be filed before the Honorable Tribunal. Sir, law of pleading demands that the grounds of appeal should be concise, they should be precise, and they should not be argumentative. So when I say that they should not be argumentative, what I mean is, sir, the ground should only say what is the problem. Ground should not say why is the problem. हमें ग्राउंड्स में कौन से केस लॉज हमें सपोर्ट करते हैं, असेसिंग ऑफिसर ने क्या गलती करी, क्या नहीं देखा, कौन सा एविडेंस नहीं देखा, क्या डॉक्यूमेंट नहीं देखा, वो सब नहीं करना. That is part of our submissions. But ground should cover up what is the issue involved, what is the problem, what is the grievance of the assessor. So, say it is a case of addition under section 68. That having regard to the facts and circumstances of the case, then its CIT appeal as heard in law and on facts, in confirming the action of Learned Deo, in making addition of rupees ... under section 68 of the Income Tax Act, and that too by recording incorrect facts and finding, and in gross violation of principles of natural justice. That's it. So my issue, that is the addition under section 68. अब उसने मेरे कंफर्मेशंस नहीं देखे, उन्होंने थर्ड पार्टी की कंफर्मेशंस नहीं देखे, उन्होंने लवली एक्सपोर्ट्स का केस लॉ नहीं देखा. That is all part of my submissions, not on the grounds. My grounds will not say my arguments. It will only say what is my grievance. Then, sir, this is a ground on merits, legal grounds, jurisdictional grounds. 148, 153C, or where grounds are like penalty matters. Now, in penalty matter, specific grounds or legal ground that the notice is bad, the two mutually exclusive charges have not been struck off, the notice is vague. So, specific grounds, legal grounds, jurisdictional grounds must be taken while filing the appeals before the tribunal. Now, sir, one question arises that whether, say, while filing the appeal against penalty order, can I challenge that the assessment order was bad? Can I challenge that the assessing officer could not have made the addition? And taking in the facts that I have not challenged the assessment order, say for the reason that I had losses after losses, there was no tax outflow. That happens. But penalty was levied. So can I challenge in that penalty proceeding that the assessment order was bad or the addition itself was bad? The answer is yes. In collateral proceedings, I can challenge the jurisdiction as well as addition. Similarly, whether while filing the appeal against the order of CIT under section 263, wherein the CIT has set aside the reassessment order, can I, while filing my appeal against the 263 order, challenge the 147 jurisdiction? I'll repeat, sir. A reassessment order under 147 was passed where AO accepted my return. Now CIT invoked 263 and has set aside that order. I am going in appeal against 263 before the tribunal. Now, whether against that 263 order, can I take the ground that, sir, the 147 order which has been passed was itself bad in law, without jurisdiction, void ab initio, and therefore this 263 order is bad? The answer is again yes. In the collateral proceedings, I can challenge the jurisdiction of the original proceedings. So recently, I had an occasion to argue a matter wherein we challenged the 147 order. And the question arose, look, you did not challenge at that stage. Now, how can you challenge here? I said, my lord, if I am able to show that the reassessment order itself is bad, itself is without jurisdiction, then how can such an order, which is bad in law, be erroneous and prejudicial to the interest of the revenue? So the foundation of my argument still remains that the CIT's assumption of jurisdiction, saying that the assessment order is erroneous and prejudicial to the interest of the revenue, that itself comes into challenge for the reason that when the assessment order itself is bad, then it cannot be prejudicial to the interest of the revenue. So the two conditions of 263 are not fulfilled. And this has been held in series of judgments by the Honorable Tribunal, naming a few: Westlife Development from the Honorable Mumbai Bench, Shift Sai Infrastructure from Delhi Bench, Krishna Kumar Saraf from again Mumbai Bench, many other decisions, series of judgments wherein they have held that in 263 proceedings, collateral proceedings, challenge can be made to the original proceedings. So, sir, legal grounds, jurisdictional grounds can be taken before the tribunal. Then specific grounds like addition cannot be made, dehouse any incriminating material found during such, or the CIT appeal has heard in confirming yours action and rejecting my books of accounts, invocation of 145(3), specific grounds can be taken. Then, sir, opportunity. And I'll also emphasize here that, sir, inevitably, in every appeal, be it before first appellate authority or second appellate authority, please take a ground of opportunity always. Because you never know when opportunity, what facet of opportunity can come to your rescue. Any material which has been used but not confronted, statement has been used of a third party given to me but cross-examination not given, or inadequate opportunity of hearing were given, personal hearing not given, personal hearing requested still not given. Multiple facets of principal material justice are there. So ground on opportunity must be given, must be taken while filing the appeal. Then, sir, why did we appear before the tribunal? Now, we have filed our appeal before the tribunal. We have prepared our grounds. Those have been filed. Now, the stage is that we have to go and argue the matter. One is preparing our submissions, synopsis, gist, whatever you call it. That should be brief enough, but not lengthy like your CIT appeal submissions, but brief enough to help you argue before the tribunal, as well as to assist the bench for connecting with you while arguing the matter. The second thing is filing of paper book before the tribunal. Now, the Income Tax Appellate Tribunal rules, Rule 18, according to which the paper book should be filed before the tribunal. In accordance with those, with the rules, with the Rule 18 given in appellate rules. Firstly, the paper book must be filed at least 7 days prior to the date of hearing to the opposite party, that is the departmental representative. And then before the tribunal, depending upon the tribunal, because now in Delhi, the paper books are carried by us on the date of hearing as per the mandate of the Honorable Tribunal. But some other benches, they may like paper book to be filed in advance, then they should be filed in advance. Now, sir, the paper book, there should be proper certification that the documents which have been filed in the paper book were before lower authorities, before AO or before CIT bill, as the case may be. And that should be properly certified. And sir, with utmost respect, I'm saying this, that no I would say no effort should be made or no chance should be taken by attaching those documents which have not been filed before authorities below. One should not take chances in litigation. Because once it comes to the notice, the tribunal is bound to reject those documents without even considering them, unless an application for additional evidence is filed in a proper manner as per the rules of the tribunal. That is Rule 29. So there should not be even any initiative or any action on the part of the SSC to file documents by just slipping them in the paper book. Those were not, which were not before the authorities below. And the paper book should be properly formatted, properly, the document should be legible enough, and it should be properly certified. The last topic which I would like to take up before I hand over to sir is condonation of delay. In fact, just prior to that, while file, now that we have spoken about appearing before tribunal, so the dress code. As advocates, we wear our black coat, trouser, white shirt, and the band. As chartered accountants, formal suit. And even if assessee in person or assessee, the representative of the assessee as a CFO or the chartered accountant from the company or industry we are going, we must be in a formal suit. Number of times we have seen people who are not very regular in tribunal or coming for the first time, or youngsters who are going to tribunal, they go in plain shirt and trouser. We are officers of the court, we are professionals, and we must present ourselves to the best possible stage, and accordingly we must be there in a formal suit and as advocates in our proper formal dress. Coming to the condonation of delay, sir. Now, our endeavor obviously should be that appeal should be filed in time. But there are circumstances, reasonable cause can be there, circumstances arise that appeal could not be filed in time. For example, sir, as I mentioned in the beginning, कि sir 263 order आया and 263 order में CIT ने 2 cases, मैं सर दोनों के एग्जांपल लेता हूं quickly. First case, जहां, and sir I remember arguing that matter wherein the CIT had effectively crystallized the addition to be made by the assessing officer, and AO only had to give appeal effect to a 263 order. अब साहब assessing को assessee के पास AO से 143(2) आया, assessee ने उसको जवाब दिया, and then assessment order was passed in pursuance to 263 order. फिर assessee was aggrieved, they approached the CIT appeal. CIT appeal साहब ने ऑर्डर किया कि साहब आपकी जो एडिशन है वो तो 263 ऑर्डर में क्रिस्टलाइज हो चुकी है, असेसिंग ऑफिसर ने तो सिर्फ उस ऑर्डर का इफेक्ट दिया है. तो as far as the order of the assessing officer is concerned, there is no error in giving effect to the order of commissioner. Grievance, if any, was lying against 263 order against which has been accepted by the assessee. So the appeal was dismissed. Now the appeals were filed to the tribunal, both against the CIT appeal order and against the 263 order. Now, there was some huge delay. So the argument which was articulated was, and I had mentioned that the assessing officer gave me 143(2) and he asked me, what do you have to say? So it was submitted before the tribunal ki, sir, look, even the assessing officer has issued a 143(2) and is again asking the assessee to explain his case. So assessee was under a bona fide belief that after the subsequent proceedings, he will have to take further remedy, and which is evident from even the assessing officer's belief that he has issued 143(2). So that belief found by the assessee is a belief which was plausible, which anybody could have, and therefore it is not a case where the assessee was not taking a remedy. Yes, assessee took a wrong remedy, but it was a case where assessee was vigilant. He is a bona fide assessee, and therefore the delay may please be condoned. And accordingly, the Honorable Tribunal, as the courts are a little liberal towards condonation of delay, they were kind enough, they were pleased to condone the delay, and they heard the appeal on merits. So, sir, while filing the application of condonation of delay, the application should be proper with all facts, and where it is circumstantial evidences, then it should be supported by a duly sworn affidavit. And where we have medical grounds, then proper medical documents, taking care that those documents are within those dates which relate to the delay period. And they should be properly referenced in the application, and accordingly application of condonation of delay should be filed. And last but not the least, while appearing in a matter before the tribunal where there is a delay, it is our responsibility as officers of the court and the councils. We first point out before the tribunal, my lords, there's a delay in the appeal, which we have filed an application duly served to the other side, and which we pray that the delay may please be condoned. And with the leave of the court, once they condone the delay, and then we proceed to argue on the merits of the appeal with the leave of the court. So, sir, the benchmark to say that yes, this application or the reason is plausible or reasonable cause, to my mind, is that the reason which is such that it appeals to the conscience of a person with ordinary prudence, then that is the benchmark that yes, it's a reasonable cause for which the tribunal may condone the delay. With this, I'll give quietus to my deliberation, and over to you, Rakesh sir, or Nehaji, as you may like to take it forward. Thank you. Thank you so much for the patient hearing. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Somil. Thank you so much. I'd quickly introduce Dr. Rakesh Gupta, who's a well-known name in litigation. He has done CA, CS, AICWA, MBA, LLB, LLM, and PhD. He was appointed member of ITAT Hyderabad. He co-authored with his partner, Dr. Raj K. Agarwal, 3 books published by Taxman on search and seizure, real estate taxation, and Black Money Act. He's practicing as an advocate in ITAT High Court and Supreme Court, argued high-profile cases of the country, which we all know about, participated in UN Committee of Experts on International Cooperation in Tax Matters. He's also a member of International Association of Tax Judges and has spoken on various platforms, including Chamber of Commerce in various countries, and, of course, Voice of CA. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us today. Over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ashwini ji, Neha ji, Amarjeet ji. I will start emphasizing certain points made out by Somil. Regarding 263 order, it has been our experience that we do not see the importance of filing appeal against the 263 order. We probably remain under this impression that when the assessing officer, pursuant to the 263 order, will pass an order, and at that stage we will file an appeal. Yes, of course, we will file an appeal against the consequential order, but then the jurisdiction to agitate against that consequential order will be within the confines of the order passed by PCIT and 263. We cannot agitate in that appeal against the order of 263 passed by PCIT, because CIT appeal, in appeal against that consequential order, cannot hear anything against the order passed by PCIT in 263. So many times I have seen my chartered accountant friends, lawyer friends, they do not file appeal against the very action of PCIT in assuming jurisdiction under section 263 and passing order under section 263. And which Somil also made very valid reference that when the consequential order is passed, appeal is filed before CIT appeal against that consequential order, then our scope of litigations, now that is highly restrictive. So that aspect should be taken care of. The second thing which Somil has made out, but I will emphasize it, and for the reason that many times we see every day that we chartered accountants faltering. And that is that against so many actions of the assessing officer, we do not take ground of appeal in our appeal memo. So against 147 as one instance Somil has taken, because the very action of an assessing officer in disturbing the finality of an assessment, that ground should invariably be taken. Though this is a legal ground, it can be taken even as an additional ground. But then why to go in for that kind of a situation where I have to make argument that this ground should be admitted? So action of assessing officer in reopening a concluded assessment, that is also an action against which an assessee, would like to feel aggrieved. There may be an action of the lower authorities in making reference to the district valuation officer. So against that action of making reference to the district valuation officer, an assessee may feel aggrieved, but then the grounds are not taken. Now, one thing which Somil has highlighted that is very important, that ground should be taken in appeal about the absence of the principle of natural justice. Now, this absence of principle of natural justice, now it encompasses not only that we have not been heard, but then there are several other facets of the principle of natural justice. Suppose an issue has been decided by a non-speaking order, then also that is a part of non-observance of principle of natural justice. So that ground should invariably be taken, and Somil has rightly said that you never know that ground of absence of opportunity of hearing or absence of observance of natural justice may come to your rescue. I mean, at which point of time, I mean, you never know. Then the other issues which Somil has left, and then I would like to deal about the cross objection. Now, this is also an area where we chartered accountants and lawyers do not pay adequate attention to this. Now, if the revenue has filed appeal, then I have got right to file cross objection in respect of the issues decided by CIT appeal or may not have been decided by CIT appeal. I am entitled to file my cross objection. So any other aspect which is there in that appeal, I am entitled to file cross objection. I may have chosen when the order of CIT appeal was received by me that what is the point in filing appeal because the quantum involved is less, or on merit I have got the relief. So why should I challenge the jurisdiction, or why should I raise the legal issues? But once the department has set the ball in motion by filing appeal, then within 30 days from the date of the receipt of that intimation, I must implore the right to file cross objection to the appellate tribunal by raking up those issues on which you initially thought that there is no point in filing appeal. But now thinking that, of course, when the matter is already in litigation, then I must rake up the issues. So kindly to remember that the entire order is again open and I can challenge any part of the order of the CIT appeal by filing cross objection. But then there is a time limit, 30 days from the date of the receipt of the first intimation or receipt of the ground of appeal of the department. I must file cross objection, and that is a very valuable right, and I must. Now, along with this cross objection, now there is a Rule 27 applications, I mean, which can also be filed. But then there is a difference between the cross objection and the Rule 27 application. Rule 27, when I say Rule 27, it is a Appellate Tribunal Rules 1963. Rule 27 of such rules provide me an opportunity to file Rule 27 application to agitate on an issue which has been decided against me by the CIT appeal. So on an issue on which CIT appeal has decided a particular issue against me, on which I did not file appeal or I did not file cross objection, then I am entitled to file Rule 27 application, and for which there is no time limit. And the Rule 27 application can also be filed to support the order of CIT appeal. Then stay before the tribunal. Now, earlier there was no explicit statutory power in the statute given to the tribunal, but then the Supreme Court, since long back, had held that the appellate authority have got all those powers which are incidental and ancillary to the power of disposal of the appeal. Power of disposal of the appeal is the main power. Then incidental power is that of to grant stay, because if that power to grant stay is not arrogated to that appellate authority, then the Supreme Court said in long back in Muhammad Kuni's case in 71 ITR, then the very efficacy and effectiveness of that power to dispose the appeal may be jeopardized. So tribunal, and since last several years, almost of 25, 27 years, now that power to grant stay now has been recognized in section 253 of the Income Tax Act earlier by making an oblique reference that challan in case of a stay application will be of this much of amount, thereby an indirect recognition of the power of the tribunal to grant stay. So, but then that power to make application for stay before the tribunal arises only when the appeal is pending before the tribunal. Many times my chartered accountant's friend, now they remain under this impression that we moved stay petition before assessing officer. Now when he did not dispose, then we filed our stay petitions before CIT appeal. So CIT appeal passes an order on stay on my stay petition, and against that I should file appeal before the tribunal. No, the power of the tribunal to deal with your stay petition arises only when the main appeal is pending before the tribunal. Prior to that, the tribunal does not have any power to deal with the stay petition. So you must ensure that if PCIT or CIT appeal has rejected your state petition and appeal is not pending before the tribunal, then you may have remedy by way of a writ before the High Court, but then you cannot be heard saying, oh, there is an adverse order against me by CIT appeal on the stay of demand or by PCIT on the stay of demand, therefore I should file appeal. Because the principle is that right to file an appeal is a statute given right. And since it is a statute given right, so statute says that these orders are appealable, only those orders are appealable, and appeals can be filed only against such kind of prescribed orders. So there is no appeal prescribed against the dismissal of stay petition by CIT appeal or PCIT. That is why Somil made a reference. So your right to file stay petition before the tribunal arises only when the appeal is pending before the tribunal. So if there is a quantum appeal which is pending before the tribunal, there is a demand, you can move stay petitions to the tribunal in respect of the demand which is involved in that appeal. If you have filed an appeal against the penalty before the tribunal, you can move stay petitions in respect of that penalty demand to the tribunal because the appeal, the tribunal is already seasoned with your penalty appeal. Now, regarding stay, there is a rule 35A of the appellate tribunal rules. Now, which though does not prescribe any format, but then it prescribes certain particulars which are required to be given as to what is the amount for which assessment year, how much you have paid, what security are you willing to offer, what are the grounds for you to seek stay. And when stay is moved before any authority, whether it is before assessing officer or before CIT or before CIT appeal or before tribunal, then I have seen my friends not doing these things. First of all, you will have to show to that authority before whom your stay petition has come up for hearing that there is a strong prima facie case in your favor. So when you move stay petition before the tribunal, then you must make out a case that how and why your case has got prima facie strength in your favor on facts or in law. You must make out. The second thing which you will have to as to your financial or liquidity position. The evidence must be brought on record to show that you are not in position to pay this much of demand. But now a statute says, even in respect of the stay petitions which are filed with the tribunal, that the tribunal can grant stay subject to the payment of 20% of the demand. And this 20% of the demand would include even the demand which you have paid earlier also. Earlier means till this state against this stay petitions or against this very assessment year, whatever amount we have paid, then the tribunal is quite considerate to take even that amount which has already been paid while computing the demand of while computing the 20% before it grants stay. So prima facie case, liquidity position, balance of convenience, possibility of irreparable loss, and all these things you'll have to make out, you'll have to plead and demonstrate. Similarly, as the appeal hearing comes, you appear before the tribunal, the stay petitions when are filed, they are fixed for hearing, and then you will have to make out a case before the tribunal, and the tribunal, subject to the payment of 20%, but then I remember recently we have contested a case before the tribunal where the tribunal granted stay even without asking for a single penny towards the demand, because the prima facie case which we made out was so intense and that the tribunal was judicially constrained to grant 100% stay. But then those situations depend upon the facts of each case, are not very common, but then they are rare. Now, hearing takes place before the tribunal. Somil spoke about the grounds of appeal, the tribunal, the paper book. Now, paper book means the compilation of all those letters or evidences filed by you before the lower authorities. Paper book must contain only those pleadings and evidences which you have filed either before assessing officer or before CIT appeal, or which are part of the record, so that the facts which you will bring out or the law which you make out before the tribunal now should be adequately evidenced with the help of the paper book. Because before the tribunal, the complete assessment record is not before the tribunal. Therefore, you take out those part of that assessment record or appeal record, first appeal record, which you think will be essential for you to convey your point and for tribunal to be convinced. But in paper book, again, I would say, even at the cost of repetitions, no such letter or evidence which has not been filed either before AO or before CIT appeal should not be made part of the paper book. If you tend to file anything which is not part of the assessment record or the CIT appeal record, then that should be filed with by way of a separate application. That application is called the petition for additional evidence. But then under no circumstances, I have seen my many friends trying to sneak certain additional documents which are not part of the assessment record or the first appellate record in the paper book under this ostensibly belief that how can it be ascertained? But no, because the paper book which is required to be filed before the tribunal is required to be certified by the SSE or by his authorized representative. And in case there is found some misstatement, though this document was not before the assessing officer of the CIT appeal, and yet paper book certification says that it was before assessing officer CIT appeal, then this is called a very serious misstatement, and the person giving that kind of a certificate, I mean, may be hauled up. I mean, I do not want to take it further, except to say that there are severe and serious consequences. Therefore, never ever give any incorrect statement. Before you certify, first of all, my suggestion would be that as a chartered accountant or as an authorized representative, better avoid to file paper book under your signature. Let the documents be. I have seen my chartered accountants, they are very pure at heart and they can go to any length to help their clients by signing the document, but then they should avoid. In this manner, I find the lawyers are, I'm much more aware as compared to chartered accountant, because if you sign a document, the entire responsibility comes on you. At that stage, then you cannot be heard saying that you were directed by your client to sign it. No, if there is a misstatement, this is a misstatement, and then the consequences may be attributed to you. So Paper book is the compilation of all those letters, all those documents which were filed before assessing officer or filed before commissioner appeal, with the help of a certificate that which document was before assessing officer and which document was before CIT appeal, so that the tribunal can take into account the pleadings and evidences filed at different stages and then come out, with after appreciation of those evidences, come out with the decision. Then additional ground. I'll come to additional evidence a little later. Additional ground, though ideally, the grounds taken by you in form number 36, they should be self-sufficient. You must, at the time of filing of appeal, should be wise enough to incorporate all those grounds of grievances which will be required to be addressed in the appeal. But if certain grounds have not been raised, then there is a rule 11 of the appellate tribunal rules which empowers an assessee to file additional ground of appeal. So if the additional ground of appeal is purely legal, does not require fresh facts to be found, and goes to the root of the matter, then the Supreme Court has relaxed the rigor of filing additional ground to this extent that the appellate authority, Supreme Court has said, that is obliged to admit such grounds which are purely legal, does not require fresh facts to be found except the facts which are already part of the record. But then if there is some ground which require fresh facts to be found out, then you will have to overcome a hurdle before the appellate authority or before the tribunal. We are discussing with the tribunal as to what prevented you from not filing that additional ground before the CIT appeal. And now what has led you to file this ground now? So you'll have to, so when you intend to move an additional ground, you are required to file a petition before the tribunal, and that is required to be filed in triplicate, one copy to be given to the opposite party and 2 copies for the tribunal, for the members. And then when that petition is filed, first of all, the arguments will have to be made by drawing the attention of the bench, sir, with respect to this ground number 3, say we have filed an additional ground or we have filed an additional ground. So first of all, on the admission of that additional ground, there are likelihood that the tribunal will say, okay, first of all, make arguments on that. Regarding the additional evidence, as I said a little while ago, that evidence which have not been filed either before AO or before the appellate authority are additional evidences. And Rule 29 of the appellate tribunal rules, though does not bar you to file additional evidence, but then it requires you to make out a case before the tribunal as to what has prevented you from not filing these evidences either before AO or before CIT appeal. So additional evidence, whenever you wish to file, you prepare a petition in which you should bring out as to which are the evidences you want to file, enclose those evidences with that petition duly numbered, and then making out as to what prevented you from not producing these evidences before the authorities below and what has compelled you to move these evidences, additional evidence at this stage. Because again, this petition, like the petition of the additional ground, is required to be filed in triplicate, 1 to the opposite parties, 2 for the bench. And on the date of argument, then you will have to make out by drawing attention of the bench that, sir, with respect to such ground, I have filed an application or petition for additional evidence, and then you will have to make out a case that the tribunal will decide if at all these evidences need to be admitted or not. So additional ground and additional evidences, I remember, and which I often quote, I was taught the very first lesson, and which is also one of the most important and precious treasure with me, My guru, Shri K.C. Singhal, who retired as Vice President of the Tribunal, he told me in 1984 when I joined the profession and when I showed inclination for the litigational practice, he told me one principle which I owe a duty to share with my fellow professional friends. He said at that time, Ki Rakesh, you envisage, you contemplate, you visualize which evidences are required to be taken into account by you during the entire proceedings. You bring them on record before the assessing officer, because if you do not bring them before the assessing officer and you lead to a situation that you happen to file these evidences before CIT appeal or before the tribunal, then take it from me that half of the case is lost. Because first of all, you will have to overcome the hurdle before CIT appeal under Rule 46A of the Income Tax Rules, before the tribunal under Rule 29 of the Appellate Tribunal Rule, as to why these evidences were not filed either before AO or before CIT appeal. And first of all, that appellate authority would be under obligation to dispose of this petition, that whether that appellate authority, if at all, has to take into account those additional evidences or not. He said that these very evidences, which have become additional evidences today, had you filed them before the assessing officer, then every authority would have been under legal obligation, would have been obliged to consider the effect of those evidences. But then sometimes the situations do arise like this, where some issues are decided without giving adequate opportunity by the assessing officer, or decided by CIT appeal without confronting us. So in that situation, we do not have any option but to go in for a filing of additional evidences. But then your skill depends upon, in most of the cases, when you visualize which evidences would be required, at which stage, and you ensure to place all those evidences before the assessing officer. That is the art. And if somebody asks me, and I must candidly confess that if somebody asks me as to what is your biggest strength in litigation, I would say this capacity to visualize as to what evidences would be required and then placing them before the assessing officer. I can afford not to make assessing officer aware as to why I am placing this evidence on record, but the very fact I am placing that evidence on record, I am entitled to draw inference based upon that evidence before the appellate authority. But if I had not been able to place that evidence on record before the assessing officer, then a sizable portion of my energy is liable to be frittered away, first of all, to get that evidence admitted before the first appellate authority or before the tribunal. So, placing the evidences before the assessing officer is a very important step, which I always say, this is the first and last lesson in litigational practice, that factual pleadings and factual evidences must be placed before the court of original jurisdiction. Now, this is such a big lesson which was taught to me by Shri K.C. Singhal Sahab during my initial years, that it has etched in my brain. I mean, to this extent that has become the biggest strength of mine. So, additional evidence, additional ground stays over. Then the arguments happen on the day when you receive the notice. In the arguments, kindly remember that you have not to mislead the bench. You have not to mislead the bench on facts. You first of all bring out the issue-wise, you bring out the facts which you want, or like this, if I say like this, you make out or bring out the facts which are admitted by you as well as by the other parties with respect to an issue, because you will have to show it from the assessment order, from the CIT appeal order, sir. This is the factual situation which I pleaded and on which neither assessing officer has got any objection or CIT has got objection. Rather, they have admitted this thing. So this is the admitted fact. Now, certain facts which are not admitted, which are contested by you, then you say those facts and then prove those facts with the help of the pleadings which you have filed, with the help of evidences which we have filed, and then you establish those facts. So on the basis of admitted facts and on the basis of now proved facts, all the facts put together, now what is the law? You prove the law, you bring out the law, and then support that law with the help of the judicially decided decisions. And then you meet each and every adverse observations of assessing officer, each and every adverse observation of the CIT appeal. Now, if you dissect your arguments in this manner, then you would be able to present your case in a very coherent manner. I have seen my chartered accountant friends. Now, what do? They mix up. Sometimes they will say of their own. In the next breath, they will oppose what assessing of CIT has done. No. First of all, you concentrate your energy in establishing your case positively. First of all, you positively prove your case. Sir, this amount of salary has been paid to such and such person. Here are the pleadings. Here are the evidences. And this is the position that if I am able to prove that this expenditure has been incurred wholly and exclusively for the purpose of my business, these are the judicial decisions. So till this stage, I have proved it positively. Now you pick up each and every adverse observations of CIT appeal, each and every adverse observations of the assessing of. So this will avoid the situation of back and forth. And this will avoid the situation where you yourself confuse, you get yourself confused or you confuse the bench. So dissection of arguments before the tribunal or before any appellate authority should be like this. Yes, sir, with respect to this issue of section 68, first of all, I will prove my case positively on the basis of the admitted facts, on the basis of facts which I would prove. Then on the strength of these facts, then what is the position of law, I will explain. Then I will support that position of law with the help of the judicial decisions. And then I will pick up each and every adverse observations from both the authorities and then meet. Now, if you do arguments like this, or even before CIT appeal, you make your written submissions in this manner, you will find that your arguments, your submissions are much more coherent and effective. But then in that process, kindly see, never lose a bench, never lose an appellate authority. Sometimes a person may think, a person who is arguing for SSC may think, oh, I should withhold this thing. I may misstate this thing. It may enable the case to be decided by, no. Cases are won, cases are lost, but never lose a bench. Never lose the appellate authority, because the confidence, many times when you rise to argue, many facts which you state orally, the benches tend to take those facts on your face value. Okay, this is the fact which you have stated. Because if you say that SSC is engaged in this business, they never ask you, okay, you show us where that SSC is engaged. How that then you would prove it with the help of the finding in the assessment order, or if the assessing officer has not recorded what kind of business, then you will show it with the help of other evidences, the tax audit report or some letter which you have. So many facts which you state as a counsel, the appellate authority has got an implicit sense of confidence in you. So that confidence is very valuable piece of confidence that should never be allowed to be lost. That is what I'm emphasizing. Then the next issue which I would like, yes, sometimes then the tribunal order comes, there may be certain apparent errors. Then you are entitled to file a miscellaneous application. But then kindly remember one important thing, which my chartered accountants friend now tend to omit and forget. Now, for filing miscellaneous petition, there is 6 months period from the date of the order of the tribunal, not from the date of the receipt of the order of the tribunal. So, in many cases where the department has filed miscellaneous applications before the tribunal, based upon the date of the receipt of the order of the tribunal by the jurisdictional commissioner, but then period of 6 months is gone, then the tribunal is dismissing their miscellaneous application, because section 254(2), in which this amendment has come, now that says 6 months from the date of the order of the tribunal. So whenever High Court, would in certain situations jump, only then there may be dilutions as to which date, the date of the order or the date of the receipt of the order, that may come. But as of now, the position of law is that 6 months from the date of the order of the tribunal. So if there are errors which are apparent from record, because there is no power of review with the tribunal can rectify an error if it is manifest, if it is apparent from record. An error can be said to be an error apparent from record when there is a mistake of fact or mistake in law, which is so obvious and patent that there can be no conceivable two opinions on it. So only then the tribunal can be compelled to rectify its order. Some facts have been wrongly stated by the tribunal. Then also your petition for rectification, because this is an apparent. Some law has been misapplied, which is apparent because there was a jurisdictional High Court decision which has got the binding effect of the tribunal. But then the tribunal has gone or has not considered that decision or has gone contrary to that decision. Then, since that is a jurisdictional High Court, and any order of any authority within the jurisdiction of the High Court has to be in line with the decision rendered by the High Court, therefore it constitutes a mistake apparent from record. So miscellaneous application then needs to be filed within 6 months from the date of the order of the tribunal. Now, bringing out separately the apparent errors. Make out your petition for miscellaneous application in this manner. That's number 1. Tribunal has recorded this finding in this para. Then point out now what apparent error now has crept in that finding, and you are saying based on what? This is very important. Now, merely saying there is an apparent error without pointing it out as to how and on what basis, that is like throwing the water in the sand. So that must come. So miscellaneous application is also heard, like an appeal is heard. The department opposes, and then the tribunal takes the judicious view whether as to whether there is an apparent error or not. Ex parte order by tribunal. Sometimes SSCs do not appear before the tribunal. Then the tribunal proceeds ex parte. Though the tribunal should dispose the appeal ideally on merit, but then tribunal many times take a shortcut route and decide the appeal against the SSC on account of non-prosecution. But then whether ex parte order is because of the non-prosecution or ex parte order is for some other reason, then an SSC is entitled to make an application for the recall of that order. Petition has to be filed under Rule 24 and 25 of the Appellate Tribunal rules, and then you will have to make out as to what has led to you not to appear before the tribunal on the day when it was decided ex parte. And in case the tribunal is convinced, you must make out. I have seen many times certain petitions are so casually drafted by our friends. Whether it is a condonation petition, the most casually drafted petitions are condonation petition, which Somil has highlighted. Now, condonation must bring, because power to condone the delay is there with the tribunal only when you are able to show good and sufficient reasons for you to file delayedly. So the good and sufficient reason is something which is based on facts. Facts are within your knowledge. You will have to plead facts. Not only you have to plead facts, but then you have to support facts. Those support facts have to be in the form of some documentary evidences, but certain facts may not be there in the form of documentary evidences. There may be circumstantial evidences. So condonation petition must be drafted with sincerity. Now, incidentally, I'll take reference to adjournment petitions also. Now, if there is any petition which is drafted most casually in the tribunal is the adjournment petition. As if we go there that we ask for the adjournment, it will be granted. Suppose I draft casually without bringing and establishing as to on what good and sufficient ground I am seeking the adjournment, and adjournment is refused. Now against that refusal, you'll go to High Court. And High Court, I mean, no, you cannot make out a new reason before the High Court. Your adjournment petition now will be a launching pad for you to agitate the ground of tribunal not condoning before the High Court. So every petition should be drafted, I would say, not only in respect of adjournment petition, not only in respect of the condonation or delay petition, not only in respect of additional ground petition, not only in respect of additional evidence petition, any petition should be drafted in such a manner and on this premise that in case tomorrow it is rejected and day after you have to go to the higher forum, that is the High Court, then the contents of your petition before the tribunal which has been rejected should act as a catalyst, should act as a basis launching pad before the High Court to show that, sir, I pleaded this, I showed this with the help of this, and yet tribunal dismissed it. Now you kindly, your lordships, that kindly come to my rescue. So all petitions should be made on this premise that if it is rejected, then what would happen? So let us be very sincere. Let us be very serious in making our petitions and supporting the averments in those petitions with the help of direct documentary or circumstantial evidence. So ex parte order recalling now is all right. Then jurisdiction of the tribunal benches. Now, Supreme Court has said in ABC's case that the situs of the assessing officer would decide. So it is in fact, in case of the tribunal, there are notifications as to, but then the situs of the assessing officer will decide as to which bench of the tribunal now is competent to hear the appeal. So that has to be seen. Dress code regarding dress. Now I have seen my chartered accountant's friend appearing before the tribunal now without the proper dress. Now what should be the dress? It has been given in the appellate tribunal rules that there has to be a buttoned up shirt with a tie and coat, or if there is any prescribed dress code under the chartered accountant's regulation, that should be. But then I have seen many times chartered accountant friends, they appear without such proper dress, prescribed dress, and the tribunal at times says, oh, we'll not hear you. You come in proper dress. So that aspect needs to be taken care. Now, division bench and single member bench. Now, what is division bench? Division bench, when that bench comprises of two members. In tribunal, you will find there are judicial members, there are accountant members. Judicial members either come from the stream of advocacy or from the judiciary. Accountant members either come from the chartered accountancy or come from the department, from the commissioner and above level. So in a division bench, there is this composition of two members, one of whom has to be technical accountant member and other has to be the judicial member. Now, as opposed to this, there is a single member also. Single member may be judicial member, single member may be accountant member. But then tribunal or Ministry of Law notifies as to which tribunal members can hold court singly. And there are a time limit of 5 years standing of the tribunal member. Now that gives the power of the law ministry to notify. So, but then which cases go to SMC and which cases go to division bench? Any case in which the assessed income is rupees 50 lakhs or more, that goes to division bench. Or 50 lakhs or less, it goes to SMC. Yes, there are certain internal guidelines also that if there is a such case, then even if the assessed income is less than 50 lakhs or rupees, then also tribunal says that the division bench will hear. But technically, if the income is assessed at rupees 50 lakhs or less, then if income is assessed at more than 50 lakhs, your issue or amount involved in the issue may be 5 lakhs or rupees, then it will go to division bench. Then also it will go to division bench. So income assessed in the assessment order, that is the deciding factor whether the issue arising out of that assessment order should go to a single member bench or it is go to division bench. Then there are special bench also. or there are, first of all, let me take third member. So when in a division bench, there is a difference of opinion between the two members, then the third member is appointed by the president to resolve that issue on which there is a difference of opinion. And then when the third member gives an opinion, again, there is a court like this before the third member, both the parties appear, make out their point on that point of difference. Third member gives his opinion, and thereafter the tribunal, after taking that third member opinion, then decides the issue based upon the majority view. Sometimes the special bench is constituted by the president. That is the exclusive prerogative of the president to constitute a special bench. When there are issues of vital importance or on which there are difference of opinion between the various benches, then the president can constitute a special bench of 3 members or 3 or more members, and one of whom should be a technical member, the accountant member, or one of whom should be the judicial member at least. So special benches like this. I think now it is 5:45 and there are several questions. So I think it will be better in case we take the questions. That will serve the purpose of this Herculean effort which Ashwini ji always takes. Ashwini ji, kudos to you, your spirit, your energy. We all chartered accountants should learn from you. The kind of heart and soul you put in, really wonderful. So, sir, questions. Should I take questions one by one?
सर अगर आप पढ़ सकते तो ठीक है, नहीं तो मैं पढ़ लेता हूँ. हाँ जी सर, वन बाय वन.
मैं पढ़ लेता हूँ सर. मैं
हाँ जी.
हाँ, सोमवीर सिंह जी का है. सर, in which case the bench is comprised more than 2 members other than third member bench. So I have explained it. In case of a special bench on an issue on which there is a difference of on which there are different benches have taken different view, then the president can constitute a special bench of 3 or more members. Then Charuhas कहते हैं, in an order of Honorable ITAT, the bench has stated there was persistent non-compliance from the side of SSE Trust. We impose a cost of 2,000 of the SSE, which is to be deposited 30 days from the receipt of the order. My question is, where does the trust deposit this cost and under which major and minor head? अब भाई ये तो the tribunal gives usually the direction that cost has to be paid, because in High Court, what do they say? You deposit it in the lawyers' welfare fund or you deposit in the library. But minor or major, what are the heads? These are the procedural matters. I'm not aware. And you can seek instructions from the registry or from the bench. Then Pankaj Mahajan. In one of the cases under jurisdiction of central charge, proceeding under section 143 were completed within 20 days from the date of issuance of first notice under section 142 and without affording effective opportunity of submissions. Oh, lost. Yes. Notice 141 allowed time only 4 days and failure SSC to file reply within 4 days. State way notice under the 140 issued and assessment completed under 144. 140 appeal was filed, CIT appeal, and remand report was demanded. The CIT set aside the assessment. तो फिर question क्या है? Can we go for appeal with ITAT and will it be beneficial to SSC, or should we go for fresh assessment with AO? That depends upon the facts of the case. Now, whether we should file appeal or we should go before assessing officer again. So that depends upon. So I think, can any new claim be filed before ITT directly, which is not claimed in ITR and not taken up before AO or CIT? Yes, we can file a new claim before the assessing of, before the tribunal, of course, but then you will have to make out as to why this claim has been made for the first time. So it can be made. Sarang Saraf कहते हैं, paper book, do we have to file original papers or Xerox copies of documents certified by SSE to be true copy? Yes, that is. For example, delay condonation filed before CIT appeals, so affidavit, medical certificate, all of the documents. Yes, they should be filed. when ITAT CIT appeal allows an appeal for statistical purpose to enable verification by the AO, but during verification the AO does not accept the SSC's contention, is the AO's order appealable? Yes, it is appealable. If yes, should the appeal be filed afresh with CIT appeal? Yes, it should be filed with CIT appeal or with the authority. No, it should be filed with CIT appeal. Then next, आई थिंक ये वाले तो खत्म हो गए. ये कुछ प्रोसीजरल है. सोमिल कैन टेल, इज ई फाइलिंग इज सब्स्टिट्यूट फॉर नॉर्मल फाइलिंग? आई डू नॉट नो रिगार्डिंग ई फाइलिंग बिकॉज Somil, can you
as of now e-filing is being done. That is the primary filing. It is only in some benches some member of filing may require physical copies at the time of hearing, that can be given.
ओके. अच्छा, एक और चीज पूछी थी कि जो कॉस्ट जमा करानी है ट्राइब्यूनल में बेंच के डायरेक्शन पे, वो किस माइनर मेजर क्या होता है?
वो तो पहले तो ये क्लैरिटी हो कि कॉस्ट जमा कहाँ होगी, तो इट इज बेटर टू कनेक्ट विद द रजिस्ट्री. They would be in a better position to guide कि कहाँ जमा करनी.
Okay. कंबोज सर पूछ रहे हैं, सर डू बेंच पुट कॉस्ट ऑन रेवेन्यू आल्सो? यस यस. Though that is a different matter, they may be slow to impose cost on the revenue, but then instances are not uncommon where the cost has been settled on the revenue. एक सर यहाँ 19 क्वेश्चन एंड आंसर में 19 क्वेश्चन आए हुए हैं, तो ये पढ़ता हूं. भूषण भाकड़ जी का है, कैन वी टेक ग्राउंड ऑफ एरर और ALEGE? ये समझ में नहीं आया क्या वर्ड? एरर,
अर्लियर कंसल्टेंट मिस्टेक सर.
Mistake for delay donation. You can take, but then it is a question of fact. If there was an error on the earlier counsel, then you can take it. But then if we take any ground in respect of any aspect by throwing burden on the previous consultant, I mean, that is not a very soothing situation. And the bench can say, okay, if that kind of an error has been done, whether your client has taken some disciplinary action or filed some complaint before institute or the bar council. So that is not a very pleasant situation. Therefore, yes. Then Suresh Kumar Jain sahab, in case of bogus purchase, whether profit on both unrecorded purchase and recorded purchase is to be added to return income, or only profit on unrecorded purchase is to be added to return income and recorded purchase already shown? Yes, on the unrecorded purchase only the profit should come. Anurag Mishra, AO passed order under section 144, read with section 147, along with the demand. How the SSC subsequently filed an appeal with CIT appeal, saying physical order received in July 19 due to change of address. CIT dismissed the appeal, citing a delay of 595 appeal. Since an order under Section 250 had already been passed, the SSC was also denied the benefit under Vivad Se Vishwas scheme in 2025. The delay and adverse outcome were primarily due to inadequate representation, improper handling on the part of the SSC. However, the case involves substantial merit. Remedy sought. In the light of whether the SSC now seeks available legal remedies to reopen or revive the appeal, given the genuine merit of the case and the fact that the delay was due to lack of knowledge but not qualified. So if the CIT appeal dismissed the appeal, then you should have filed appeal before the tribunal. Now you file appeal against the tribunal with the delay and again with condonation petition of this appeal, and then the tribunal condones the delay of the appeal filed before the tribunal. Then you can make out a case before the tribunal that the delay in filing appeal before the CIT bill was for good and sufficient reasons. Next is Anubhav Agarwal ji. Commissioner appeal does not give a single hearing opportunity under a penalty proceeding in past order. Communication opened in 2022 and order passed July 25. What can be the grounds of appeal apart from not giving opportunity to hear and natural justice, as we have not submitted? You may not have submitted paper book, but then you take the ground that the CIT bill has added in confirming the levy of penalty. You take this ground, and then apart from opportunity, then you argue on the merit also. Amarjit ji Jaiswal, if any portion of grounds is not decided by tribunal, yes, of course, can MA be filed? Yes, it constitutes mistake apparent from record. Shilpi Jain कह रही हैं, department filed MA in December 24 against order pronounced in May 24. Department stating date should be count from the date of receiving. Any favorable judgment? So many. Somil, you can upload because we have got a decided number of cases. Shilpi ji, you can contact to Somil ji. Somil copy दे देना. अश्विनी जी, Somil का नंबर आप दे दीजिएगा. सारंग सराबी
आप मेरे को ऐसे करना, कॉपी दे देना, मैं आई विल
ठीक है, ऐसा कर लेना. ठीक है,
तो जितने भी
ठीक।
पार्टिसिपेंट है वो यूज कर सकते हैं वहां से।
हाँ, तो आप शिल्पी जी का भी नंबर आप अश्विनी जी उनको भेज देना। सारंग सराफ जी कह रहे हैं पेपर बुक, डू वी हैव टू फाइल द ओरिजिनल पेपर, जीरोक्स कॉपी? यस, जीरोक्स कॉपी। भूषण जी कह रहे हैं इनकम डिक्लेयर्ड अंडर आईटीएस स्कीम and form 4 is issued, the same is on account of transaction carried out on bank society, can AOCIT will reject the same and make its own addition? No, income declaration scheme, no, they cannot do like this. Income declaration scheme, if your declaration has been accepted by the competent authority, they will have to accept it. Prakash Ramani ji keh rahe hain, recently FM announces withdrawal of petitions if monetary limit is less. Please throw some light on this. No, in fact, in September 2024, monetary limits were enhanced. That if revenue wants to appeal against the order of CIT appeal to the tribunal, and if the amount of tax involved in the issues which the department raised in grounds of appeal will be 60 lakhs or less, then that appeal needs to be withdrawn. So, Finance Minister has not said anything new. It is already there from quite a longer period.
फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर ने जस्ट सर 3 महीने का वो टैट दिया है कि इसमें विड्रॉ करो।
Yes, yes. So even if it is not withdrawn after 3 months, it can be withdrawn. How does it make any difference? So Banu Nair Rao, sir, in one of the benches, the ITAT and SMC cases are being heard by DB. Yes, yes, they can be heard by DB. But SMC cases can be heard by DB. You cannot find fault in this. But then the cases, I mean, which DB alone can hear, cannot be heard by SMC. Piyush Manchanda saying, sir, whether drafts of application petitions to be filed by ITAT rules? No. I mean, petitions, I mean, are not given. But then there are certain books in which the draft formats of the petitions are given. You can see them. What is petition? Petition is that here are the facts. This is the point of grievance. And I am bringing that grievance with the reasonings. That is the petition. Then Ajay Agarwal ji, sir, what is the procedure to revoke, withdraw power of attorney? What is the procedure revoke, withdraw power of attorney? Somil, क्या होता है इसका?
Generally, you can make a statement before the bench that we are withdrawing a power of attorney. The bench may note, and accordingly they will issue a fresh notice to the SSE directly. But couple of times the bench may ask that whether you have informed the SSE, so it is better you send a letter by post to the SSE also that we are withdrawing a power of attorney, and that letter can be enclosed with the petition to the bench.
No, probably the question of Ajay Agarwal ji is when if the client wants to revoke or withdraw power of attorney, then what is the process?
If the client wants to, we can send a letter to the tribunal.
Yes, that the power of attorney issued by me in favor of such and such person, I am withdrawing it.
Yes, yes.
Then Arvind Kumar ji, if the case is remanded back to CIT appeal by ITAT, whether new grounds of appeal can be taken or we have to argue only on grounds of appeal filed earlier. No, it depends upon. Suppose the tribunal has set aside a matter without any precise direction, and then if there are certain legal jurisdictional issues which we have not raised earlier, you can raise it. Prakash Ramani. Like I give one example in order to drive home my point. कहाँ गया वो question? वो था ना, अभी इससे ऊपर लाना जरा अश्विनी जी, आदित्य नवादार से पहले लाना
है।
अच्छा, वो चला जाता है क्या?
हाँ, नहीं वो तो चला गया है।
अच्छा,
वो दोबारा टाइप कर देंगे, मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा कि वो दोबारा
इज एफिडेविट ऑन बॉन्ड पेपर कंपलसरी फॉर कंडोनेशन रिक्वेस्ट? नो नो नो। प्रकाश रमानी जी, रिसेंटली एफएम अनाउंस, ये तो हो गया था। गुरदीप सिंह बक्का से, देयर इज अ डिले इन फाइलिंग अपील वाज अबाउट 9 years ड्यू टू रीजन दैट एसएस वर नॉट अवेयर ऑफ द असेसमेंट ऑर्डर बीइंग पास्ड बाय द एओ. CIT appeal has not accepted the condonation where the tribunal can condone. Tribunal can condone the delay provided you convince the tribunal that really SSE was not aware, as aware of the order passed in assessment by the assessing officer. Definitely, it is a question of fact. So fact has to be established by you. When you are claiming a fact, then the burden is on you to prove that fact. Next, sir.
प्रकाश रमनी हो गया,
खत्म हो गया सारा। गुरदीप सिंह बग्गा के जी के प्रश्न के बाद
नीलेश जी का है सर, एक नीलेश जी का हो गया।
नीलेश जी का नहीं हुआ. I have seen that assessment are appealed, but penalty orders are not appealed. Is this procedure? Oh, it is not correct. I think penalty orders can be dropped even if assessment orders are not in favor of SSE. Definitely, penalty orders can be dropped only when you file appeal and then make out a case. Law helps them. Now, who helps themselves? If you do not file an appeal against penalty order, then I mean the God will not come to delete that penalty. Sir, my question was original or Xerox copy is enough with certified? Yes, Xerox copy is enough. Arvind Kumar, whether paper book can be filed online? Yes, it can be filed online. It can be filed online. Suresh Goel, thanks a lot. Suresh Goel ji keh rahe hain, assessment for 19 was made in February 25 under 147. Now again, SSA received another notice. Now, how many times notice? There is no numbers. You can put on the notice of 148. That depends upon the information. If some new information comes to the notice of the assessing officer, then obviously he can issue. Can we argue why the matter in later notice not taken in an assessment already made? No, I mean, you cannot argue like this. Amir Nazir, is appeal for ITT filed online? If yes, on which portal? Somil?
ITT website, itt.gov.in.
Okay. Suresh Kumar Jain sahab, when books were rejected, then profit on both record. ये तो पहले आ गया था. While hearing MA, can tribunal change its decision on any ground? So if there is an apparent error of fact, then obviously that order has to be recalled and then the fresh hearing will take place and then a decision may be different. नीलेश जी recently ये तो हो गया था. Then विजेता
नीलेश जी का क्वेश्चन है कि क्या मॉनिटरी लिमिट एमए पे लगती है?
Will this be application? ये क्या क्वेश्चन हुआ सोमिल?
एमए पेंडिंग हो और उस पे टैक्स इफेक्ट की इंक्रीज लिमिट लगेंगी क्या?
एमए पेंडिंग है. एमए तो असेसमेंट, एमए तो ट्राइब्यूनल ऑर्डर के अगेंस्ट है.
ट्राइब्यूनल ऑर्डर अगेंस्ट अगर मान लो रिकॉलिंग होती है, अल्टीमेटली अगर टैक्स इफेक्ट पे जाना ही है,
हाँ, तो फिर तो ट्राइब्यूनल कर देती है.
तो ट्राइब्यूनल जनरली कर देती है कि सेइंग कि अल्टीमेटली अपील विल बी डिसमिस्ड एज नॉन मेंटेनेबल.
यस यस. विजेता जी, in the case of SSC for SA 12-13, an order under 150 was passed in 2017. As per the department, order was served in 2017 and they have the service record. However, the SSC denies receiving the order and claims that person served was neither related nor authorized and requests the SSC receive a copy. While filing Form 35 appeal, what should be mentioned as the date of service? Obviously, if the SSC has not been served in accordance with law earlier, so now the date when it has been served now, that alone is the date of service. Actual date of service. Anil Garg sahab keh rahe hain, when quantum appeal has been set aside by tribunal and appeal filed against penalty before CIT appeal should be withdrawn, or what action needed? No. That appeal need not be withdrawn. CIT appeal, if confirms that penalty, then tribunal will set aside that penalty appeal to the assessing officer because the assessment has been set aside. Anil
Bansal, now that CIT appeal also has power to set aside, can we not tell CIT appeal that it has set aside?
CIT appeal has got power of set aside only in cases of ex parte assessment. Okay. Anil Bansal, can new points be raised in reassessment order if the same is not part of 140? No. Assessing officer, of course, 148A notice, then 148A3 order, it has to be the same issue. But then once it is found that it is worth of issuance of notice under section 148, then the reassessment, new points can be raised. Bhushan Bakar, because the explanation which has been added to section 147, that gives that kind of leverage. For same assessment tier 2, 140 notice received on different dates within time sanctioned, but proceedings carried out on basis second 148 notice, can it be challenged? Yes, it can be challenged, because if the first notice under section 148 was valid notice, then during the pendency of a reassessment proceeding, pendency of the valid reassessment proceeding, again, reassessment notice cannot be issued, because you can reopen something which is closed. Something which is already open cannot be reopened. So in such a situation, you find out whether the notice issued first time under section 148, which was pending, was a valid one or not. Mohit Kumar, dear sir, can you please specify some books or publications which can help in drafting submissions before ITAT? देखिए मोहित जी, there are no books on it. because most of the issues are on facts. I explained you how to prepare your arguments. First of all, every issue you take the admitted facts, then you prove the facts which you want appellate authority uh, to take into account, and then law, and then support by judicial decisions, and then meet adverse observations. So that makes the complete this thing. फिर अब इधर आ जाओ, no open questions. सुभाष जैन सर कह रहे हैं।
हाँ जी सर, एक तो वो अमित कंबोज साहब
जी,
और दो हैंड रेज अटेंडीज में भी अभी हैं, दो हैंड रेज। पहले कंबोज साहब आपका क्वेश्चन है तो एक पूछ लो, फिर मैं अटेंडीज की तरफ जाता हूँ सर।
हाँ जी सर।
सर
डॉक्टर साहब,
यस सर।
सोमिल जी ने बताया था कि पेपर बुक फाइलिंग जो बेंच हैं, जैसे दिल्ली बेंच का उन्होंने रेफरेंस दिया कि वो
हाँ।
ऑन द डेट ऑफ हियरिंग ही ले रहे हैं,
जी
ऐसी
हाँ
कोई
जी हाँ।
डायरेक्शंस है।
हाँ जी हाँ जी।
तो इसका मतलब जिस दिन आप पेपर बुक देंगे तो उस
जी।
दिन तो फिर एडजर्नमेंट ही हो जाएगी,
नहीं
केस तो
नहीं
हियरिंग
नहीं,
नहीं होगा।
डीआर को पहले देनी पड़ेगी।
ओके,
डीआर को पहले दे दीजिएगा। और दिल्ली ट्राइब्यूनल कहते हैं हमारे पास जगह नहीं है रखने के लिए पेपर बुक्स,
ओके,
हमने पहले पढ़नी नहीं होती हैं, आप उसी दिन लेके आइएगा एंड देन यू फाइल इन।
ओके, ओके। और सर सेकंड ये था कि चंडीगढ़ बेंच में क्या हो रहा है कि जो डिफेंडेंट का हम नाम लिखते हैं, एपिलेंट तो असेसी हो गया ऑफ कोर्स, तो डिफेंडेंट में अगर असेसमेंट यूनिट ने असेसमेंट करी है तो वी यूज टू राइट कि असेसमेंट यूनिट, असेसिंग ऑफिसर, असेसमेंट यूनिट, इनकम टैक्स डिपार्टमेंट।
ठीक है।
तो दे से दे क्रिएटेड द डिफेक्ट, दे रेज्ड अ डिफेक्ट कि नहीं, इसमें जो आपका ओरिजिनल असेसिंग ऑफिसर जुरिसडिक्शनल एओ है, आप उसका रेफरेंस दीजिए।
चलिए दे दीजिएगा।
ओके, क्योंकि मैंने काफी ऑर्डर्स पढ़े हैं जिसमें जो अगर असेसमेंट यूनिट है, ट्राइब्यूनल के ऑर्डर्स ही यूजुअली पब्लिश होते हैं, तो वो वहाँ असेसमेंट यूनिट के अगेंस्ट ऑर्डर है।
ठीक है, देयर इज नथिंग सब्सटेंशियल, दिस इज
ओके,
हाँ।
anyone can be there.
Yes, sir.
Similarly, if it is by the NFAC, CIT appeal faceless, तो वहां भी फिर असेसिंग ऑफिसर जाओ का ही हमें मेंशन करना पड़ेगा जी।
जी 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 जी।
जैन
सर,
सर,
थैंक यू
जैन
सर।
सर, जैन सर कुछ पूछना चाह रहे हैं सर, सुभाष जैन सर।
हाँ जी सर।
यस सर।
सर दो क्वेश्चन हैं।
जी।
एक तो है कि एक केस में 141 143 के अगेंस्ट अपील की, ट्रिब्यूनल ने उसको सेटिस्फाइड करके वापस एओ के पास भेज दिया।
ठीक है सर।
दूसरा था कि हम उसके अगेंस्ट 154 करवाया था।
अच्छा।
154 के अगेंस्ट अपील पेंडिंग पड़ी है सीआई ट्रिब्यूनल में ही। तो क्या विड्रॉ करें, क्योंकि ओरिजिनल जो असेसमेंट है वो अब वापस आ गई है, सीआईटी अपील के पास आई है।
आप विड्रॉ नहीं करिए, आप ट्राइब्यूनल को बोल दी सर ये अपील इंस्ट्रक्शन हो जाती है, बिकॉज पूरा की पूरा इश्यू अब असेसिंग ऑफिसर के पास है, तो वो ट्राइब्यूनल कहेगी अच्छा ठीक है, अपील इंस्ट्रक्शन हो जाती है, एक ही बात है।
इंस्ट्रक्चर्स करा दें।
हाँ, कोई कैसे भी करा लो।
तो सर सेकेंडली, एक एविडेंस जो है किसी दूसरी फाइल में पड़ा है, असेसिंग ऑफिसर के पास जो फाइल है किसी दूसरे असेसी के केस में,
जी जी,
क्या उस डॉक्यूमेंट को अगर हम इस मेरी फाइल में यूज करूं तो क्या ये एडिशनल एविडेंस माना जाएगा?
एडिशनल एविडेंस है, एडिशनल एविडेंस है सर।
एडिशनल एविडेंस, राइट।
हाँ जी हाँ जी हाँ जी।
थैंक यू।
सुरेश कुमार जी सर अटेंडेंस में एक था। सुरेश जी आपका हैंड रेज था, आपको अनम्यूट किया है जी। सुरेश कुमार जी, देन अनुराग अग्रवाल जी।
हेलो।
हाँ सर।
हाँ जी
सर, बुक्स रिजेक्ट होती है तो अनरिकॉर्डेड परचेज का प्रॉफिट ही ऐड करते हैं रिटर्न इनकम में, दोनों ऐड करते हैं सर?
अनरिकॉर्डेड का ही करते हैं।
थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू।
हाँ अच्छा
हाँ जी अनुराग जी, अनुराग जी।
गुड आफ्टरनून सर। सर
हाँ जी।
मेरे ना इस केस में, एक केस में 144 की असेसमेंट हो गई और उसके बाद उसके 270 ए की पेनल्टी भी लगी कंसीलमेंट की। तो उसके बाद
271 सी की या 270 ए की? अच्छा
270 ए की।
हाँ।
तो उसके बाद वो केस मेरे पास आ गया। मैंने ना उसने अपील नहीं फाइल की थी, तो मैंने क्वांटम अपील फाइल कर दी सीआईटी अपील के बाद विद डिले ऑफ 1 ईयर।
हाँ।
तो उसमें सीआईटी अपील ने वो केस को सेट असाइड, डिले कंडोन करके एडिशनल एविडेंस एडमिट करके सेट असाइड कर दिया केस को।
अच्छा।
तो जो 270 ए की या दूसरी पेनल्टी लगी है उसके अगेंस्ट 154 हो जाएगी।
हो जाएगी, हो जाएगी,
उसकी
हो
वजह
जाएगी।
से सिंपल 154 की एप्लीकेशन दे दें, क्योंकि जो ओरिजिनल
हाँ जी
क्वांटम
हाँ जी
अपील
हाँ
है।
जी हाँ जी हाँ जी हाँ जी।
और किसी का क्वेश्चन है तो काइंडली हैंड रेज कर दें।
इधर राइट हैंड साइड पे जो आ रहे हैं ना सर, सुभाष जैन साहब का डॉक्यूमेंट टू फाइल एंड उधर, अच्छा ये तो हो गया सर। अच्छा हो गए सारे क्वेश्चन हो गए सर?
हाँ जी, हाँ जी।
हाँ जी सर, हाँ जी क्वेश्चन सारे हो गए सर। तो
हाँ।
अभी तो हैंड रेज चल रहे हैं सर। नेक्स्ट अनिल बंसल जी हैं।
अच्छा,
आपका
हैंड रेज
hand
चल
raise
रहे
है
हैं अभी। हाँ।
सर मेरे को पूछना है कि जैसे फर्स्ट अपील में अभी एक नया गवर्नमेंट का जो लास्ट ईयर लॉन्च हुआ था EDRS अंडर सेक्शन 245MA, तो
हाँ,
उसके क्या बेनिफिट है और क्या मतलब वो
क्या
करना
है
चाहिए?
245 में क्या है बताओ।
EDRS स्कीम, जो ई डिस्प्यूट रिजोल्यूशन स्कीम जो गवर्नमेंट ने लॉन्च करी लास्ट ईयर।
अच्छा, 245D।
MA,
भाई ये
ई डिस्प्यूट रिजोल्यूशन स्कीम इंस्टेड ऑफ
इस
CIT अपील
कौन सी
240
सेक्शन है जैसा? 245
MA।
MA। अरे
हाँ
भाई,
हाँ, ई डिस्प्यूट रिजोल्यूशन स्कीम
नहीं वो ठीक है।
अप टू 10 लाख
245M।
रुपीस अगर डिस्प्यूट है अगर कुछ।
अच्छा, डिस्प्यूट रेजोल्यूशन कमेटी कभी ये यूज नहीं किया तो इसलिए कुछ ज्यादा इस बारे में नहीं मालूम है। तो क्या
हाँ।
आपका कोई इसमें कोई स्पेसिफिक क्वेश्चन हो तो बतलाएं।
नहीं सर, अभी मतलब ये पूछना था जैसे इसमें जो बेनिफिट, क्या एडवांटेज है डिसएडवांटेज इसके, मतलब ये वाली बात।
डिसएडवांटेज तो कुछ नहीं होता, एडवांटेजेस ही हैं। ये तो
हाँ
डिस्प्यूट रेजोल्यूशन के लिए बनाई है। आपको क्या डिसएडवांटेज लगता है?
हाँ। नहीं, जो सर मैंने पढ़ा था इसमें कि अगर इनका ये ऑर्डर बाइंडिंग है, इस पे आप ITAT में नहीं जा सकते, मतलब ये वाली बात है
नेचुरली,
सर।
अरे व्हेन यू आर इन्वोकिंग दिस डिस्प्यूट रेजोल्यूशन एंड डिस्प्यूट रेजोल्यूशन कमेटी इज मेंड बाय मोर देन वन पर्सन, रिस्पॉन्सिबल पर्सन से दे डिसाइड। तो
हम्म
फिर तो अब सेटलमेंट कमीशन के ऑर्डर्स भी अपीलेबल थोड़ी होते थे। तो इसी
ठीक है।
तरह से है, दिस इज ऑल्सो ए सेटलमेंट
ओके
टिल टिल 10 lakhs of rupees, तो इसलिए अपीलेबल नहीं है।
ओके ओके, या
हम्म।
ओके।
हाँ जी सर, नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन है जैनेन्द्रन जी का, देन गोविंद शर्मा जी का। हाँ जी सर, पूछिए अपना 1 by 1। हाँ जी, जनार्दन राव जी, देन गोविंद शर्मा जी।
सर गोविंद शर्मा बोल रहा हूँ।
एक पता करो
हाँ जी
अन्नपूर्णा जी से कहाँ तक पहुंचे हैं हम। हाँ सर।
सर मैंने एक सीआईटी अपील फाइल की थी 2017-18 की।
अच्छा।
उसमें मैंने सीपी ग्राम पे भी डाल चुका हूँ 3 बार।
हाँ,
वो बार बार कहते हैं कि मतलब हमने सीआईटी को डायरेक्ट कर दिया, पर कोई रिजोल्यूशन नहीं निकला अभी तक। और
अच्छा,
सेम
सीआईटी
नोटिस
अपील,
4
आपकी अपील
5 बार आ
डिस्पोज नहीं
चुका
हो
है।
रही है?
हाँ जी।
अरे 6.5 लाख लोग हैं ऐसे।
और सेकेंडली सर, उसके अंदर वीडियो कॉन्फ्रेंसिंग का ऑप्शन भी नहीं आ रहा मेरे पास।
चलो खैर, वो तो कोई बात नहीं, वो करे तो सही। मैं तो ये कह रहा हूँ सीआईटी अपील डिसमिस करें, कम से कम ट्राइब्यूनल तो जाएं। अब ये उन्होंने
राइट सर, राइट।
अगर
दे
एक
हैव मेड द एंटायर सिस्टम इमोबाइल।
अगर
सर
एक और
आप ना
सीपी
एक
ग्राम डाल दी तो वो
एक
गुस्से
ना
में डिसमिस ही कर देगा।
आप एक ना ऑर्डिनेंस लेके आओ, सरकार
यस
को
सर।
बोलो कि जिनको ने जिनकी डिसमिस करनी है वो तो ट्रिब्यूनल में जाएं, जिनको विवाद से विश्वास में लेके जाना है उनको वहां लेके जाएं, काम तो
सर
निपटाएं
4 बार
इनका।
सेम नोटिस आ चुका है, 4 साल से कंटिन्यूस, हर 1 1.5 साल बाद एक नोटिस आ जाता है। सेम रिप्लाई फाइल करता हूँ।
हाँ, ये सिस्टम थोड़ा गड़बड़ा गया है।
तो सर
और सर
आपने पहले गुप्ता जी ने एक रिप्लाई दिया था ना, वो कह रहे थे कि जी मेरा वो उन्होंने एक्स पार्टी कर दिया, तो वो ढूंढते हैं कि किस में रिप्लाई नहीं आया, वो
यस
वाले
यस
डिस्पोज
यस।
कर देते हैं।
हाँ, वो कर देते हैं, या
सर
ESIPF
वीडियो
वाले हो
कॉन्फ्रेंसिंग के
गए।
लिए क्या करना चाहिए?
पढ़
वीडियो कॉन्फ्रेंसिंग के लिए, हियरिंग के लिए।
नहीं, वो जब जब वो तो खुल जाएगा। ऐसा तो हो नहीं सकता कि वीडियो कॉन्फ्रेंसिंग तो लॉ में ही प्रदत्त है।
सर लॉ
आप
में तो है, पर मैंने सबमिशन के बाद भी खुलता ही नहीं मेरे यहाँ तो।
नहीं तो आप कुछ वो रखो, इसका स्क्रीनशॉट लेके रखो।
अच्छा, स्क्रीनशॉट रख लेता हूँ और एक एप्लीकेशन लगा दूं सर?
हाँ, लगाओ लगाओ, भेज दो कि साहब आपका ये तो खुल ही नहीं रहा है, ये वाला तो ठीक है ना।
राइट सर, थैंक्स थैंक्स
हाँ
सर,
हाँ
थैंक्स।
हाँ हाँ।
थैंक्स थैंक्स टू ऑल।
सर नेक्स्ट, हाँ जी जनार्दन जी का क्वेश्चन था, आपका हैंड रेज था जी जनार्दन जी।
अब
जनार्दन,
अश्विनी जी,
हाँ
अभी
जी।
कितने और हैं? मेरी वाइफ आ गई है, उनके साथ
नहीं
मुझे
नहीं,
जाना है।
लास्ट लास्ट है सर क्वेश्चन, इसके बाद हैंड रेज में भी क्लोज कर रहा हूँ सर।
अच्छा हाँ।
मेरे ख्याल में वो भी क्वेश्चन नहीं पूछ रहे, तो मेरे ख्याल में वी हैव कंक्लूडेड एट टाइम एंड विद ऑल द क्वेरीज हैज बीन रिजॉल्व्ड। तो सर थैंक यू वेरी मच। तो आपका इतना टाइम हमने लिया और
अरे
आपने
नहीं
हर
साहब, इज
क्वेश्चन
ऑलवेज अ
का
प्लेजर
बखूबी
कि मैं
रिप्लाई।
अपने प्रोफेशनल ब्रदर सिस्टर्स के किसी काम आ सकूं। तो सर कोई बात ही नहीं है सर, इट इज इससे ज्यादा और क्या फुलफिलिंग एक्सपीरियंस हो सकता है।
थैंक यू वेरी मच सर। तो हमारे एक ही स्पीकर कॉमन रहे हैं तीनों दिन, वो अमरजीत कंबोज जी, फॉर द वोट ऑफ थैंक्स। तो आज का भी सर आप ही दें, उसके बाद ही मैं बोलूंगा। कंबोज साहब।
सर अनम्यूट करो, कंबोज सर अनम्यूट करो अपने आप को।
ओ सॉरी, अनम्यूट करो सर, अनम्यूट।
नहीं, आपका आशीर्वाद हम तक पहुंचेगा ही नहीं सर।
सर इसमें तो मैं सबसे पहले अश्विनी जी का ही धन्यवाद करता हूं कि कंसिस्टेंटली उन्होंने मुझे ये अपॉर्चुनिटी दी है टू प्रपोज द वोट ऑफ थैंक्स एंड ऑफ कोर्स फॉर द टुडेज deliberations, a spellbound, I can only use these words as usual, not only by Dr. Rakesh Gupta ji, but of course we had the opportunity to listen so good a deliberation by CA and advocate Somil Agarwal.
सर ही beseeches your blessing सर, वो बच्चा है बड़ा, अभी
नहीं
आप
जी,
सब
नहीं, आपका आशीर्वाद उनके पास है और इतनी सपोर्ट है and he has touched upon a very practical and thoroughly on all the issues relating to which of course a beginner, a young member who needs to learn. He presented his deliberation in such a manner कि जो भी मेंबर सुनेगा ना जी, या बाद में जो पीपीटी या जो इसकी लिंक ये शेयर करेंगे अश्विनी जी, तो वो डेफिनेटली उसको एक बिना किताब पढ़े एक समझ आ जाएगी कि मैंने आईटीएटी में अगर प्रैक्टिस करनी है तो किस ढंग से मुझे ये डॉक्यूमेंट दाखिल करने हैं, कौन कौन से इशू पे करने हैं, कौन कौन से सेक्शन है। क्योंकि सीआईटी अपील में तो फिर थोड़ा सा चल जाता है जी, लेकिन ऑफ कोर्स जैसा आपने भी गाइड किया कि आईटीएटी में यू हैव टू बी वेरी क्लियर, वेरी ऑनेस्ट इन योर सबमिशंस, कोई भी मिसलीड करने की कोशिश ना करे, and in particularly sometimes the tone also, which I would also like to add.
Yes, that's very nice, very nice.
कई बार हमारी वहां बोलने में हम एंजाइटी में थोड़ा ऊंची बोल जाते हैं कि शायद मैं जोर से बोलूंगा तो मेंबर्स को ज्यादा अच्छे से सुन जाएगा, लेकिन ऐसा नहीं है। मेंबर्स आर ऑलवेज very very attentive to the submissions made by the appellant and the particularly the counsels, and they do definitely regard the face value also, and they take it on face value that whatever the counsel is saying is perfectly all right. So this was the third and concluding day of this 3 days webinar organized by Ashwini ji, Neha ji, and the voice of CA Sanjay Agarwal ji and their team. My heartfelt thanks to the whole team for organizing this 3 days webinar series so effectively, so efficiently, that with their marketing strategy also, because he so well put the messages, repeated messages, and of course the choice of the speakers were so good that everybody tried to join the webinar on all the 3 days. Thank you very much to the whole team. And of course, my thanks to the first day speaker, CA Prakshit Agarwal ji, though formally the vote of thanks was given, but since this is the concluding day, I take it my privilege to again convey heartfelt thanks to CA Prakshit Agarwal ji and for the deliberations on the faceless assessment and 148. He too deliberated very practical. He gave the examples, and in a very elaborate manner he given his views on the topic. The next day was, of course, in the hierarchy, our Central Council member Sanjay Agarwal ji, who too delivered very effectively on the procedures and law for the appeals before the CIT appeal. And today's one, of course, the last channel of the appellate for the available with the assessee and the council, the CAs, because thereafter it is only the privilege with the practitioners like Dr. Rakesh Agarwal ji, Rakesh Gupta ji, being an advocate, he is practicing same CA advocate Somil Agarwal ji, who must be appearing before in the hierarchy of High Court and the Supreme Court, and even the today's deliberations. Of course, it is always a pleasure to listen to Dr. Rakesh Agarwal ji, Gupta ji, sorry. Every time I miss the surname, sorry sir. And I remember the day, and I particularly comment his memory. I remember my first interaction with Dr. Rakesh Gupta ji was in Ludhiana, and he was coming for the first time. It was in a building in the industrial association, and I raised a query, and he asked me to wait for the conclusion, then I will give you the reply. I knew that judgment, but hats off to the memory of Dr. Rakesh Gupta ji. He quoted that judgment. I still remember today. It was on ATI issue, and the judgment was in the case of Bajaj Tempo Limited. Sir, on the basis of sir, on the basis of that judgment, we won our case before the Honorable High Court also.
Okay.
Yeah. So thank you very much to the most learned, highly learned speakers of the day, Somil Agarwal ji, and of course Dr. Rakesh Gupta ji. And last but not the least, thank you very much to all the participants who in such a large number attended and gained lot of knowledge and updation on the law and procedure of faceless assessment 148A proceeding and proceedings before CIT appeal and before the Honorable ITAT benches. Thank you very much, sir, once again, and very grateful for sparing so much of time.
Certificate आपको after 7 days will be available in the
Sir,
Google
हमें भी
link.
मिलेगा ना certificate?
हाँ जी सर,
पार्टिसिपेंट्स को भी मिलना चाहिए, स्पीकर्स को भी मिलना चाहिए,
स्पीकर्स को थैंक्स लेटर देंगे सर.
ठीक है सर. ओके सर.
जितने सर्टिफिकेट्स विल बी अवेलेबल इन द गूगल ड्राइव व्हिच आई हैव शेयर्ड यू. पीपीटी फर्स्ट डे और सेकंड डेज की जो पीपीटी बेस थे तो वो पीपीटी भी आपको वहां पे मिल जाएंगी, और यूट्यूब लिंक मैं सेपरेटली शेयर कर दूंगा. यूट्यूब आज मैं ओपन कर दूंगा, कल की और आज की भी. दैट वाज ए पब्लिक, दैट वाज प्राइवेटली रिकॉर्डेड, नाउ इट विल बी पब्लिक. एंड उसका लिंक भी मैं आपको पीडीएफ में एज वेल एज इन द वर्ड डॉक्यूमेंट वो लिंक कॉपी करके आपको उसी ड्राइव में रख दूंगा, तो आप वहां से यूट्यूब लिंक भी ले सकते हैं. थैंक यू वेरी मच. नेक्स्ट अपडेट आपको जल्दी ही मिलेंगे कि क्या लेके आ रहे हैं.
थैंक यू सर. थैंक यू.